What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about something that I've asked a lot in my comments, right? As you guys know, I'm mainly a classic WoW channel. I've branched out, done a few retail videos here and there, but it is not my bread and butter. And obviously we focus heavily on classic WoW. And a lot of people in my comments tend to ask me, hey, I want to get into World of Warcraft for the first time. I've never played before, which is mind-blowing to me right off the bat. Which version should I play, right? So if we think about it, we have basically, I think, 5 versions of WoW that you can choose to play, right? We have Classic Era, we have Classic Hardcore, we have Classic Cataclysm, or I would call it Progression, right? It might be progressing into Mist of Pandaria. We have Classic Seasonal, which is right now Season of Discovery. We've had Season of Mastery in the past. And then we have Retail, or Modern WoW, which is like the live version of the game, people call it. So there's 5 versions of this game to play, and a couple of them are drastically different from one another. So for anyone out there who wants to kind of figure out which version of the game is right for you, which version you want to play, that's what this video is going to be for any new players, for any returning players who can't really figure out where they want to go, or for anyone who's maybe just bored of the version that they're playing. I'm going to give a brief explanation of what each version, you know, has to offer, I guess, like kind of like a pros and cons, right? And we're going to start with Classic Era, right? This is Classic Era. This is 2019 Classic, stuck in that last phase of the game with Naxxramas and all of that. So for Classic Era, I would say that one of the biggest pros is that it's not going anywhere, right? It's permanent. There are people leveling out in the world. There's very, very minimal changes. You know, it's not like Season of Discovery. And it's just, it feels like a very classic version of the game, especially right now. It's seeing, you know, some sort of population increase. People are really, you know, wanting that classic feel right now. And a lot of people are leveling over there. There's raids going on. However, most of the raids are GDKPs, and the economy is definitely a little wonky on there because it's been around for so long. But you can definitely find some old school guilds to run raids with at endgame if that's what you're trying to do, right? So Classic Era, I would say, is good for the leveling experience. There is a pretty tight-knit community on there. The servers are clustered, so you don't have to worry about being on a dead server. It's pretty popular, especially right now. I wouldn't say it's massive, but it has a healthy, sustainable player base. And then next up on the list, I want to talk about hardcore, right? Classic hardcore. Hardcore tends to come and go in waves. There is a player base on there. I wouldn't say that it's big or you know, even as close to as big as Classic Era. But hardcore comes in waves, right? Like we have the OnlyFans event happening next month, so we're going to see a massive surge on the hardcore servers. Everyone's going to be leveling. And when that happens, hardcore is absolutely fantastic. It really does kind of slow you down and force you to play the game almost how it was intended, right? You really can't rush, because if you die, your character is done. You only have 1 life on hardcore. But it does tend to really, really breathe some life into the world and the community aspect of Classic, right? Community is massive for hardcore. So if you are on the fence about it, if you've never tried it before, hardcore is a lot of fun. It is hard not to die, especially if you are a new or returning player who hasn't played for a long time. You know, you have to keep in mind that your character does have 1 life, so you could put 150, 200 hours into your character and then, you know, die or disconnect from the game and die by accident. Your character is gone forever and you have to start over from 1. But it does add this element of, like, you are really just, like, tense all the time. You're just waiting. You're really, really planning out your pulls, planning out what you're doing. You're taking your time. So it definitely is pretty enticing to a lot of people. Then we have classic, I would call it classic progression realms, which are currently in Cataclysm, possibly moving into Mists of Pandaria in the near future. This is the classic from 2019 that then progressed into the Burning Crusade, into Wrath of the Lich King, into Cataclysm, and like I said, might be moving forward into Mists of Pandaria. This is a pretty popular version of the game as well, despite what people think. Cataclysm has seen a massive drop-off since its launch, but for anyone who wants to kind of re-experience these expansions, I'm not sure how far they're going to go. They're most likely going to do Mists of Pandaria, as it was a popular expansion, and there were surveys sent out to people asking if they would play it, but that is an option for you as well. Like I said, right now it is in Cataclysm. A little bit more hardcore than Classic Era. You know, if I had to say, like the raids, you have normal and heroic versions of the raids. The raids have a little bit more mechanics. Cataclysm, I would say, is the retail light version of the game. It's definitely a little bit less approachable for the casual player, if that makes any sense. And then we have classic seasonal, right? We had Season of Mastery a few years ago, and we're currently in Season of Discovery. Season of Discovery is interesting because it's a mix of pretty much classic era. You're in the classic era universe. Right now we're in phase 5, raiding Blackwing Lair. We just finished Molten Core in phase 4. It's just classic with a twist, right? Every class has kind of been reworked. You have new abilities and talents. They're called runes that you go out and find in the world, for anyone who doesn't know and hasn't checked it out. There is a leveling buff, so you can level super fast to cap level and just join a guild. It's pretty active. I think it's sitting around 85,000 raid logs per week currently. Tends to get a little bit of a surge at the beginning of every new phase. We still have Encourage opening, 20 and 40, or however they do that. We have Nax Ramus, and then there were some hints at possibly a Karazhan Crypts raid and maybe a Scarlet Monastery or Scarlet Citadel type of raid. So classic seasonal is definitely an option for you. If you want to play classic with a bit of a twist, definitely go check that out. And then we have live or retail or modern, right? The modern version of the game, which just seen the release of its new expansion, The War Within. I'm not really a retail or modern player, but I have been playing it for the past month just because right now I'm kind of waiting for that boom to start in classic hardcore next month. That's what I'm going to be doing. But retail has been a lot of fun for the past month, but I will say that it is very, very far from what you remember World of Warcraft as if you played back in, like, even in Cataclysm or Wrath of the Lich King, Burning Crusade, or Vanilla. It's very, very far from that. The story is amazing. The graphics are great. It looks visually appealing and really stunning in some spots. But the game is way faster paced. It feels a little bit less like the MMO that you know WoW to be. It feels more like an action MMO. It's still a tab targeting MMO, but it feels way faster paced. It feels like an action MMO. You're really like slamming your buttons fast. Definitely feels like there's a little bit less community, right? You do join guilds to raid and do things in retail, but it doesn't have that same community feel as classic. And really, it's hard to put that into a way that someone who hasn't experienced it could understand. It's not the same game. It's still World of Warcraft, but it really isn't the same game. The combat is completely different. Your community aspect is completely different. Leveling is really like non-existent in the game. You can hit cap level in just a few hours from level 1. But the plus sides to retail is that it is faster paced and there's a ton of stuff to do at endgame. There's multiple tracks that you can follow, right? If you're a solo player, you can do delves and gear out just as good as people who are running, heroic raids. You can do Mythic Plus dungeons, which are 5-man endgame content. You can do raids on normal, Raid Finder, heroic, normal, mythic. And then you also have competitive PvP, right? There's arena, there's solo, shuffle, 2s, 3s. Like there's a lot of end game in retail. So if you're in it for the end game and you want a more faster paced competitive environment, I would say retail is for you. If you're looking for more of that classical, like just super classic MMO experience, like back when, I'm 32 years old, for anyone who's watching, back when, I was like 12 or 13, you want that MMO experience, I would lean way more towards classic era, classic hardcore. And then if you want to kind of like bridge that gap and go somewhere in the middle, you have classic Cataclysm right now, or like I said, could be Mist of Pandaria soon, or classic seasonal, which is Season of Discovery. So there's a lot of options. And just so everyone knows, you do get access to every version of the game with your monthly sub. So there's nothing stopping you from trying out every single version until you find the version that works for you. And right now, we have some big things cooking up in the classic community. We have a massive 20th anniversary event for retail WoW that was announced, and we're waiting on some news for classic. Some people are saying we're going to get a fresh realm, so you might want to wait and kind of hold out a couple of weeks if that's where you want to go play, or maybe just go play and mess around and don't get too invested, because we will be getting fresh realms. Apparently that's what everyone's saying for either classic era or classic hardcore. And for anyone wondering, when you get a fresh realm, it is the absolute best time you will ever have playing classic WoW. Just thousands of people out in the world. It feels so alive and fun. So I hope this helped anyone who's kind of on the fence. Like I said, new, returning players, or someone who's just bored of the version that they're playing currently and you want to check out a different version. That's like a very basic way that I can describe each version of the game. And I hope it helped you guys out. So if you guys want to hang out with me live, jump over to my Twitch, twitch.tv/hammerdance. There's a link in the description. I stream Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And subscribe to the channel. Turn on those post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. We cover everything World of Warcraft here on this channel if you're new here. So thank you so much for the support. And yeah, guys, it's going to be fun. I think we have a lot of good stuff coming up with Warcraft Direct in the next couple of weeks. So thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.